Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Simone McKinney, WTOC's digital anchor and reporter. We're going to continue our coverage of the Leilani Simon trial. Just a reminder, we are on a 30-minute delay, so everything you're seeing is about 30 minutes behind at the request of the judge. You can check our website, WTOC.com, for a full recap of week one. We're getting into week two, and we're expecting testimony to continue this morning. They should be stepping into the courtroom in just a few moments, so stay tuned with us and find any extra information that you're looking for in this case from even before Quentin was reported missing. We have a full timeline of events on WTOC.com. We'll carry this entire coverage live on our website, so make sure to tune in with us.
Judge Tammy Stokes presiding. Please be seated and come to order.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And if you please bring out Ms. Simon. Hope everyone had a good weekend. Yeah, it did come out a little short, didn't it? I thought so too. All right. Good morning, Ms. Simon. We're on the record in SPCR 22-03364J6, the State of Georgia versus Leilani Marie Simon. Ms. Simon is present at counsel's table with her attorneys, Martin Hilliard and Robert Purse. The state is represented by AUSA Tim Dean, ADA Jenny Parker, and Detective Lemons. Is there anything that we need to take up before we begin today?
No, Your Honor, we're ready to proceed.
And the defense is ready to proceed?
We are, Judge, but there is something we will need to take up at some point in time. Probably, it doesn't have anything to do with this witness, but we will need to take up something in a little bit. So
Okay.
whenever you have time or want to squeeze it into the next break, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Let's look towards the next break.
That's fine.
Okay. Mr. Dean, please call your next witness.
Bring the jury in.
You know, I'm going to do this like I did last week. Bring in the jurors, please. And good morning. Is that Miss Gay? Yes. Hello. Well, welcome to the group. Oh, no, no.
This week will likely be fast.
Deja vu. All is well. Y'all, please have a seat until the jurors come out. Thank you. morning, everyone. Please have a seat. Okay, we're going to start again today. And before you left last Friday, I gave you my instructions not to discuss the case, don't do any research about the case, don't talk to anyone about the case, don't let anyone talk to you about the case, do not read, watch, listen to, or otherwise observe or consume any media reports about the case. Was everyone able to do that? Follow the instructions. Is there anyone who could not? And if so, would you raise your hand? Okay, let the record reflect that it appears that everyone has been able to follow the court's directions. And we'll turn now to the state.
State calls Robert Corley.
Raise your right hand.
The evidence you take into the court and jury at the trial of this issue should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Yes, sir. Step this way.
All right, good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, my name is Special Agent Robert Corley. I'm with the FBI Jacksonville Division.
And can you tell us just briefly about your education before joining the FBI?
Yes, I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a master's degree in criminal justice.
And how long have you been with the FBI?
Since May 2011, so I'm coming 13 years.
Are you a full-fledged special agent, or are you in some sort of support role, or what? What's your role?
No, I'm a special agent assigned to national security investigations.
Now, you are here because you analyzed some phone records for some of the people involved in this case to see whether you could determine where they had been on the night of October 4th into the morning of October 5th, and whether their phones had made any significant movements. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Now, what is the methodology that you used to do that?
We define it as cellular analysis. We basically look at cellular records provided by cell phone companies, and we match those records with cell tower lists, which are also provided by the telephone companies, and then we use relevant dates and times provided by investigators to create a report and analyze the location of a device.
Now, did you do this in your capacity as a member of CAST?
Yes, I did.
What is FBI's CAST?
So CAST is short for Cellular Analysis Survey Team, and it is a team of approximately 80 agents and task force officers spread throughout the United States. CAST performs three primary functions. We provide training on cellular analysis to state, federal, and local law enforcement partners. We also use the methodology and the techniques we're going to talk about today to track and locate people in real time. So we'll often be asked to help locate fugitives, help locate missing children, and unfortunately a lot of times locate the missing bodies or remains of victims.
Now, can you tell us about the training part?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
And the third primary function is to do what I'm doing today, testify as an expert witness in trials.
Can you tell us about CAST training that you got that allows you to do this sort of analysis?
Sure. So CAST training starts with a basic course, which is just an introduction to cellular records that all agents, state, local, and federal law enforcement can participate. Once that class is completed, you can be invited to what's called an advanced course, which is reserved for FBI special agents and FBI task force officers only. After advanced course, you go on to what's called a field training certification, where you spend 3 days looking at prior investigations or cases. You're put in like a command post situation where they give you a time limit to solve a case and see if you can come up with the same solution that the original case agents did. And if you progress through those and you meet all the minimal requirements, you can be invited to CAS certification. CAS certification is a 4-week course. It consists of 1 week of training in RF theory, radio frequency theory. That's taught by PhD professors from the Florida Institute of Technology in Melbourne, Florida. After that, we have a week of training and interaction with the cellular providers. In my case, it was AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, and T-Mobile. Sprint, merged with T-Mobile, so now people no longer receive that training, but at the time I did from Sprint. And they bring in the people that produce these records that we're going to talk about. So when law enforcement submits a search warrant or a court order, they will provide these records. They talk about how they pull them, what all the columns mean, and then we also talk with the engineers that actually work on the towers and the networks in the field. After that, we receive some training in mapping, different types of software that we use. We also receive training in something we call drive testing, where we take equipment out and we do measurements of the actual footprint of a cell tower. So we can not only say what we believe the cell footprint or the cell tower footprint would be, we can, in some cases, actually map out the actual footprint of a cell tower.
And have you completed all of those steps that you just described?
Yes, sir.
And do you hold the CAS certification?
Yes, sir, since 2019.
All right, so since 2019, you've been full-fledged member of the CAS team?
Yes, I received the training, and we receive an annual recertification, which is 24 hours of training every year, generally consisting of those same things. We bring the carriers back in. They provide any updates to any of their records, and then we also receive training from other companies like Google, Apple, companies that provide other location-based services.
So aside from the training to do this type of analysis, since 2019, have you gotten experience actually employing this in cases?
Yes, I actually use this in my own cases. That's how most people become a CAST agent. You start using some of this technology in your own investigations. So I use it not only to help other agents or investigators with their cases, but I also use it daily, weekly, monthly in my own investigations.
And have you testified about it in court before today?
I have.
About how many times?
19 times.
And have you been accepted by courts as an expert witness before?
Yes, all 19 times.
Your Honor, at this time I would offer Special Agent Corley as an expert in the area of cellular analysis.
Objection, Your Honor.
The witness is accepted as an expert.
Now, in this case, did you receive a request or perhaps a series of requests from the Savannah FBI office to conduct this sort of analysis with respect to some cellular records that they had obtained?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did you receive cell phone records from Taylor Burns of the Savannah office?
That's correct.
Did these records include a set of phone records for a number identified to you as that of the defendant, Leilani Simon?
Yes.
Did they include phone records for a number identified to you as that of her boyfriend at the time?
Yes.
Did they include cell phone records for a number identified to you as that of a brother of hers that was living in the same house during the relevant time frame?
Yes.
And did they include cell phone records for a person identified to you as the father of the missing child?
Yes.
All right. Once you had these records, what did you do with them, in short?
So once I receive the records, first I do a check to make sure they're original records received from the phone companies. Nothing is out of the ordinary. And then I take the records and match them with a cell tower list. The records will provide you, in this case we specifically use timing advance records. They provide you with the tower used, the sector of that tower used, and then the distance from that tower. So we're able to provide a general location of where a device is located. So I use those records and then produce some maps and a report showing where the phone was located during that time.
You mentioned you produced some maps. Have you, for today, prepared a presentation detailing your findings?
Yes, sir.
And do you believe that presentation will aid the jury in their understanding of your testimony?
Yes, very much.
Do you see in front of you a document marked as State's Exhibit 64?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us what that is?
This is my report.
Your Honor, at this time I would offer State's Exhibit 64.
No objection.
And I'd ask to publish it to the jury, Your Honor. All right. We're on page 1 of 12 here. Can you describe Can you describe the contents of this first page here? What are we seeing here?
It's just a title slide with the 4 phone numbers that are included in the report, and the date that the last edit was made onto the report.
Okay, so the top number, that would be the defendant's, right?
Correct, 5275.
That 910 number, the second from the top, would be that of her boyfriend?
Correct.
And the one below that, another 912 number, would be that of her brother, right?
That's correct.
And then the last one would be that of the child's father?
Correct.
Moving on to slide 2, can you tell us what we're seeing here?
Yeah, this is just an introduction that describes that methodology that I just spoke to you about. We take cellular records, tower list, and then the relevant date and times that are provided to us by investigators, and produce a report using those data sets.
All right, moving on to slide 3, what are we looking at here?
So this is just a general picture of what a cell tower looks like. We've all seen them around. The most common one is going to be the one in the far right corner for me, the one that's labeled a monopole tower. That's the most common one, but they can also be, a cell tower can be on the side of buildings. You would probably see that in the Savannah area. And then also based on certain statutes or regulations in certain cities or municipalities, they have to be hidden, but this is generally what cell towers look like.
Moving on to slide 4.
Yeah, so when you see that cell tower that's actually on the pole, a lot of people think of the pole or the apparatus as the tower, but the tower is actually the boxes that are on top of the poles. And in most instances, about 85% of all cell towers in the United States are configured in a 3-sector pattern. They could be configured in others, but by far the majority are 3 sectors. In this presentation, all of them are 3-sector towers. And what happens is the companies divide up the towers in those 3 sectors to service each side of an area. And they're generally divided in, you can think of a 360 degrees covers the full circle, and each sector is divided up into about 120 of that. So if you think of it as pie slices like it's illustrated on this map, each sector serves that general area.
So this diagram is, we're above a cell tower looking down on it.
Correct.
And these little gray boxes here are the antenna arrays.
Correct.
We were seeing in the last picture.
Yes, sir. That would represent the actual towers, what's transmitting that RF frequency or receiving that RF frequency.
Okay. So each tower, 3 sectors, about 120 degrees each.
Yes, and in the records, the tower list that I referenced earlier, it will tell you the azimuth of that sector. So the azimuth is the direction that the center of that sector points at. So in this orientation, one sector has an azimuth of 0, which is true north. Sector 2 has an azimuth of 120, and Sector 3 has an azimuth of 240. And once you know those, you know how to orient the pie wedge on your map to show which direction the tower's pointing.
And when When a set of cell phone records says that a phone was hitting on a particular tower, does it also tell you which sector of that tower?
The cell phone records will, and you have to then refer to the tower list to find the orientation of each sector.
Okay. Slide 5.
So this is just in general narrowing down what you're going to see on the slide is one sector pointing towards the azimuth and covering that 120 beam width. We like to point out that the shaded arc is not the coverage area of a tower. It's just to help you orientate towards which direction that tower is facing.
Okay. In other words, the coverage of this sector doesn't end where the red shading ends. It's just a visual aid to show you which direction.
Correct, and it's helpful when you have multiple calls bouncing off sectors, so you know that these two were used and the third one wasn't. So.
Slide 6.
So this is what the sector will look like on a map once we've determined that a call activity or network activity has happened on that sector, and we've put it with the azimuth, and so you can see the general area. And what you also see on the maps are neighboring towers. So in this one, you have a tower here to the north, and we're able to use that sector and that beam width of 120 degrees in relation to the next neighboring tower and figure out a general area of where a cell phone would be located based on the tower coverage of that area.
Slide 7, timing advance explanation. What is this?
So timing advanced is engineering data that the cell phone companies use to help optimize their network. So if you were to call in and say, I'm having problems with my cell phone, probably the first place they would look is the timing advanced data, and they would see when a cell phone is in your location and it's a distance from the tower, what does the reception look like? And if they have problems, they'll then tweak their networks or maybe provide you a booster or something like that. But this data is collected and it's aggregated from the companies. This is not, it can be collected when your device is doing nothing. As long as your device is powered on, timing advanced data can be collected from the network. And they use a measurement of time, how far it takes, how long it takes a signal to reach the tower and then back to your phone, and they're able to calculate that into a distance. So now with timing advanced, we have the sector, which is 120 degrees, the direction it points, and the distance from the tower. So on the map, this curve represents the location of that device. It could be anywhere on that arc and at that distance from the tower.
So you say, it allows you to say, we know which sector this phone is using, and we know about how far away it is from the tower, but we don't know exactly where in that sector it is, but it's somewhere inside of this bent hot dog?
Correct.
Okay. And again, the person does not have to be making or receiving calls or sending or receiving text messages to get timing advanced data?
No, sir. It's as long as the phone's on, the network can collect activity from timing advance. It also could collect timing advance in connection with a phone call or a text message or a data session, but it collects when the phone is sitting there also. And the one thing that we note at the bottom of this is, timing advance is a measurement of time. So, let's say there's an obstruction, like this stand is in the way of my signal to the tower, and that has to go around that for that split second. So in some instances, the device will appear to be further out than it is because of that split second it had to go around. So sometimes you will see an arc that is just outside the location of a phone, but the phone can never be further out. The phone can never be outside of the arc. It will always be inside of the arc.
Moving on to slide 8.
Again, this is just to show what the timing advance band will look like on the map. Again, we have the neighboring cell tower, but we don't need to use that to make a guess because they've given us the distance from the tower that was used during that event. So that arc represents the distance that the device is.
And just to be clear, is this image, this map image here, specific to our case that we're here for today, or is this just a kind of a demonstrative?
No, these are just general, same ones I use for every presentation, so it is not Savannah.
Okay. Moving on to slide 9. So first of all, this is timing advanced mapping for the boyfriend cell phone.
Yeah, the phone ending in 1458.
Okay, can you walk us through this, just kind of hitting all the component parts and what it is that it's telling us? Because there is a lot going on in this slide.
There is a lot going on. This is the timing advanced activity for that phone between October 4th at 10:30 p.m. and October 5th at 5:49 a.m. And what it shows is that the timing advanced arcs line up with a general area of the blue call-out box, which is the address I was given as the residence of the person that uses this phone. And what you can do with the timing advanced in these instances is you can look at where timing advanced overlaps with each other, and it makes that X, so that you know that the phone could be anywhere along those bands. But when you have two overlapping bands, it's going to be somewhere in there where near where the bands overlap, or it makes an X.
Okay, so just to be clear here, we'll start, it looks like we got this phone, 3 different towers gathered timing advanced data for this phone during this time frame?
4 different towers. If you look at the tower at the top, 4 different sectors.
Okay, 4 different sectors. All right, so this one on the left here, right? You're saying at some point during the night, this phone was hitting on this tower,
Yeah, there were 22 events on that tower.
which would put it in this band,
Correct.
and at some point in the night, it was hitting on this tower here, moving to the right.
Yeah, there was one event on that tower.
And where's the band for that one?
Can I stand up here?
Yeah, sure.
So this band here would line up with this tower. This band that runs from here to here.
Okay. And then, was it hit this tower here, moving to the right, the one that says CIDs 1755? Tell us about this and where the band for it is.
So there are 23 events off both of these. Same tower, 2 different sectors. And what you'll see on a lot of towers is they stack on top. So if you ever see a tower and you see like there's almost like a parking garage, they're all in the same location, but level 1, level 2, level 3, they're all built to service more customers. So if there's an increase in customer base, instead of putting up a new tower, they're generally just going to stack more towers on top of that pole.
Okay, so is that why they're not offset like 100 degrees, 120 degrees from each
Correct.
other? Because it's not 2 separate sectors of the same tower, it's...
Yeah, so this is likely 2 towers sitting right on top of each other, one slightly pointed in a different direction than the other. So this would still be Sector 3. These are probably both Sector 3 towers, one with a slightly different azimuth.
Okay.
And these bands are represented. You can see the one, so this one that's a little to the right, these 2 bands here that go and stop a little bit short, and the one that's pointed up here starts here and goes down to here.
Okay. And you're saying it's the intersection of these bands where that phone would have been during this time frame?
Correct. During certain time periods, you can see if, for instance, if there's a call, I think there was a call at 10:48 on this band, and then there's a call 30 seconds later on this band. Well, you can't be here on this band and then here on this band in 30 seconds. So you have to naturally start looking at where do these bands overlap, and you can start narrowing down the location of where they could be within those bands. And then you can just look at geography, like there's no roads here, there's no roads over here, there's no roads here. So you could start eliminating so many places on timing advance and start narrowing down to where it's likely at during that time.
Is it your opinion that this phone appears to have been in the area of 535 Buckhalter Road for the entirety of this time frame here?
The timing advance data would be consistent with it being at that location for the timing advance data that I have.
Right, through the night.
Through the night. They started at 10:30 and ended at 5:49.
Okay. Did you see any indication that that phone left the residence at any point that night?
No, this is all the timing advance data that we had for that telephone.
Moving on to slide 10, this would be the same, generally the same time frame, but for the brother's phone, right?
Yes, this one's at 11 instead of 10:30. That was the first timing advanced event, and then this one went to 9 a.m. Originally, we did some different analysis on the last phone to show where the phone went after 5:49, but this one was in the same location until 9 a.m.
Okay. And so, again, we're looking at where the bands intersect to tell where this phone appears to have been through this time frame.
Yeah, so these were both Verizon phones, both using the same towers, with the exception of that one event that happened on one other tower from the last slide. These are the same towers, same timing advance measurements, all lining up with being consistent with servicing that resident.
And do you believe that the timing advance data that you looked at for this phone is consistent with the phone having been at 535 Buckhalter Road during the time frame on the top of the slide there, 11 p.m. to 9 a.m.?
Yes, these timing advance bands would service that area.
Okay. Did you see any evidence in the timing advance data through your analysis that this phone left the residence at any point during that time frame?
There were no timing advanced events that led me to believe that.
Moving on to slide 11. This would be cellular analysis for the child's father's number. Is that right?
That's what was described to me, yes, sir.
All right. What is the area depicted on the map here? Where are we in the world here?
Up near the South Carolina-Georgia line. I would have to look closer at I'm not familiar with up near Sardis, Millhaven, that area.
What's that town? What's that town in the top left of the slide there?
Waynesboro,
Okay, so not too far from there.
not too far from Waynesboro.
All right, what's kind of the bottom line conclusion as to the child's father's phone's location from the period on the slide here, 11 p.m. on the 4th to shortly before 9 a.m. on the
Yep.
5th?
All the phone data and timing advance indicated that phone was up in that area near the Georgia-South Carolina border for that entire time period.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Any indication that it came anywhere near Savannah that night?
There were no records indicating that it was anywhere other than these locations.
Now, we've come to the end of the report, but let me ask you this. Did you also do the same sort of analysis with respect to the defendant's timing advance data?
Yes, I did.
And did you also look at her Life 360 GPS data as well?
Yes, I did.
To keep it simple, I'd just like to refer you to some things that we've already heard from Taylor Burns.
Okay.
And let me ask you this. You originally had slides pertaining to her, right?
I did.
And is it fair to say that there were more of them and that they were more complicated because her phone had made a couple significant movements from the house during that night?
Yeah, there were several slides. I don't remember the exact number, but I think probably 10, somewhere close to that, with additional data, with a lot of timing advanced and a lot of movement of a phone.
Now, to keep it simple, I'll just ask you about your review of Taylor Burns' screen capture videos of his GPS plotting, okay? Did you review a screen capture video of Taylor Burns' GPS plotting from the defendant's phone and Life 360 records, showing that phone making a movement first to a Circle K and then later to a location identified as her drug dealer's house?
Yes, in my original analysis, they provided some other phones and another location, and the phone was consistent with moving towards that area.
Okay. And after reviewing that screen capture video produced by Taylor Burns, can you tell us whether your analysis of that movement as reflected in her phone records and Life 360 records aligns with the product that Taylor put together?
Yeah, so the Life 360 GPS coordinates are going to be more specific, but the timing advance lined up with the same pattern of movement as the Life 360 records.
Okay. Did you also look at a screen capture video of GPS plotting that Special Agent Burns did showing a movement by the defendant's phone to the Azalea Mobile Home Plaza, remaining there stationary for a short period of time and then returning to 535 Buckhalter Road?
Yes.
Did your analysis of her timing advance data for her phone number for that period line up with Special Agent Burns' GPS plotting of that movement?
Yes, the timing advance data was consistent with that same movement.
Did you review a screen capture video that that Special Agent Burns produced pertaining to the boyfriend's cell phones, or the boyfriend's Life 360 records, showing in the early morning hours a movement away from the phone, from the home to his workplace, him remaining there for a few hours, and then returning back to the home. Did you see that video?
I did.
And did your timing advance analysis for the defendant's phone record, for the boyfriend's phone records during that time period line up with what Special Agent Burns had produced in the way of GPS mapping for that time period?
Yes, it did.
Okay. One moment, please. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Mr. Hilliard?
Thank you, Your Honor. Special Agent Corley, you said you've been in the FBI for 13 years?
Yes, sir.
And I assume, and I'm just trying to figure it out. Did you work anywhere before the FBI, or were you in school?
No, I was a captain in the United States Air Force.
Okay, and how long were you a captain in the Air Force for?
9 years. Well, I'm sorry, I was a captain for 5. I was a lieutenant for 4.
Thank you for your service, Special Agent. All right, let's go back to your illustration, if I could, just to see if I can make sense of what it's saying and what you're trying to say with it. Is the sectors kind of give you a wide, broad swath in which a phone is pinging off of that tower, right?
Ping to me means a different thing, but yes, it's a general directional. RF frequency doesn't stop at a line on the ground, so it's more of an ambiguous like shape, but it is a general representation of that tower's coverage.
Right, and all I'm trying to get at is when I say pinging, I mean the phone is interacting with the tower in that sector in some way.
Yes, there's a date and timestamp of an event that produces that record.
Right. But all that record really produces is that there's been interaction with that sector of that tower with that phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's all I'm trying to get at. So with regard to the boyfriend's phone, it says here that there were 22 events, it looks like, off of the tower near, this is off page 9 of your report. There were 22 events off the tower near the Sky Zone Trampoline Park between the hours of 10:32 and 5:48, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the analysis and the data that you got, does it tell you what those events were, or does it just tell you that there were 22 events?
So these were all timing advanced data. So there were network interactions. So there was nothing that the phone was doing. There was no calls, no text messages,
Right.
Nothing like that aligned with this timing advanced data. These were all network measurements.
So it's just saying that this tower and this phone are interacting 22 events in this time frame.
Correct.
Okay. And the next question I have is, and then it has one event from the other tower closer to Hunter during the same, I guess, at 10:57?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay. And that event, was that a timing advance event, or was that a phone call, or what was it?
These are all timing advanced events.
Okay, so it didn't register the phone call, correct?
This does not require any user interaction with the phone.
Right. And so this particular, this time frame is pinging off of, I guess, an adjacent tower, correct?
It is pinging off a neighboring tower, yes, sir.
All right. And the other tower to the top right of that, it has the 23 events, let's say.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Don't know, just asking. Would that tower encompass the other events, or are these separate events?
These are all separate events.
Okay, so the total events that you looked at for this time frame would be 23 events from the one tower, 22 events from the Sky Zone Tower, and 1 event from the Hunter Army Airfield Tower.
Correct.
Okay. So, and that, again, it's just timing advance events. It doesn't require anything from the phone or any interaction. This is just the phone and the towers talking, correct?
That's correct.
Now, my question is it looks like and I'm horrible with math, so correct me if I'm wrong. There's a total of 46 events in this time frame for this particular phone, right?
Yes, sir.
And it's all just the towers interacting with the phones, correct?
Correct.
So, is it normal to have the towers switch like that?
Yes.
Okay. So it's nothing indicative of anything other than it's just switching between the towers.
Yeah, so if you were making a phone call or using a text message or using your phone for a data session, the phone is selecting which tower it's going to use. And in most cases, not most cases, in all cases, it's going to select the tower with the cleanest, the best signal. Most of the time, that's the closest tower, but not always. But in these events, these are just network measurements. So the measurements often, they don't even have to be a usable cell phone signal. They're just measuring the distance of the devices, taking and saying, well, what's this phone look like when it's at this distance from this tower? And then they aggregate that data to do whatever engineering they need to do with it. So it doesn't matter what the phone's doing, and it doesn't follow the same rules as we wouldn't say if we didn't have the distance from the companies that tell us how far it is, this would be not usable, because then it would just be like, well, it's bouncing off a bunch of different towers. How do we know where it's at? But because we have the distance, we can use it even though it is using multiple different towers.
And that's kind of what I'm getting to is let's assume the phone's stationary and hasn't moved. Mm-hmm. The analysis that you're doing, it's these phones and these towers are doing their own thing, determining which tower to use and which signal to use and how to bounce back and forth with little or no interaction from the user, correct?
That could be correct, yes, sir.
Right. Not always correct, but in this
Yes.
particular case, that's correct, right?
Could be, yeah.
Okay, all right. And that being said, the analysis doesn't ever actually say who is in possession or carrying or using the phone either.
No,
Yeah.
I can't tell you that, no, sir.
Right, and you have to look at other things to know that, correct?
Well, I mean, I would say there's probably never an instance where I can say 100% that person had the phone unless I was sitting next to them and watching them use the phone. So it could be picked up by somebody else. But yeah, I can't determine who was using the phone.
Okay. That's all the questions I got. Thank you, Mr. Corley.
Thank you.
Is there any reason to hold this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, you are excused.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you very much. Statement, call us next witness.
Special Agent Snyder.
Please, the clerk, raise your right hand.
The evidence you shall give the court and jury in the trial of this issue should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Step this way.
Good morning.
Morning. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Brad Snyder. I'm a special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
And how do you spell Snyder?
S-N-I-D-E-R.
How long have you been an FBI special agent?
Approximately 18 years.
Can you just briefly tell us about your education before joining the FBI?
Sure. So I attended college at Appalachian State University. After college, I joined the Marine Corps as a Marine Corps officer. Spent approximately 8 years on active duty in the United States Marine Corps, and then joined the FBI after leaving active duty.
Can you tell us a little bit about your FBI career leading up to this case?
Sure. So I currently serve as the coordinator for the FBI's Southeast Georgia Violent Crimes Task Force. Prior to that, I've been here in the Savannah office for about 15 years. Worked both violent crime cases, violent crimes against children cases, national security cases here in Savannah, as well as throughout the country and abroad.
Now, on October 5th, day one of this investigation, did you become involved in investigating the disappearance of Quentin Simon?
I did.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you initially became involved? You know, the phone call or the conversation or whatever it was that brought you into this?
Sure. On our task force, we have a intelligence analyst with the Savannah Area Regional Intelligence Center. On that October 5th morning, we got an email from that analyst advising us of a potential kidnapping, abduction within the county. So upon receiving that email, I reached out to Detective Lemons with the Chatham County Police Department just to offer the services of the FBI. At that point in time, they really didn't have a clear picture as to what they had. So approximately an hour later, Detective Lemons called back and said, this is...
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
It's offered to the effect on the listener, Your Honor. How did you become involved? I got a phone call. That's admissible.
Not what she said. You can testify about the effect and tell them what she said.
You may want to rephrase your question, Mr. Dean.
After getting this phone call from Lemons and getting kind of the big picture of what was going on, did you respond to the Chatham County Police Department headquarters?
We did.
All right. And when you got there, what was going on?
Detective Lemons was starting the initial triage of interviews, gathering the individuals that were at the residence at the police department.
And on that day, you participated in a series of interviews of the defendant, Leilani Simon?
I did.
And you were paired up with Detective Lemons for that, right?
I was, yes, sir.
There were some other federal, local interview pairs that day as well, correct?
That's correct.
All right. We've seen a lot of this interview footage from October 5th, but I'd like to ask you a few questions about it. We're not going to play it all back. At this time, had you received any particular training in interviews, interrogations prior to this day?
At this time, an 18-year career, I've done a lot of interviews. The FBI, like many law enforcement organizations, has numerous techniques, sophisticated techniques that we rely on throughout the course of investigation. But I would say the technique that moves the needle the most is interviews. And this particular investigation, we've done a lot of interviews, and really we have to let the interviews tell the story in this investigation.
Now, I'd like to ask you a couple questions about the defendant's demeanor during these October 5th interviews. Her demeanor, her tone, her volume, okay? Was her demeanor, tone, and volume, was it consistent throughout these interviews, or did it change from one thing to another at various points, or what?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for opinion.
Mr. Dean, I was listening to that objection.
Senator, the witness personally observed her demeanor, tone, and volume. This is not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of personal observation.
Can you state the question?
Did her demeanor, tone, and volume, was it consistent throughout these October 5th interviews, or did it change at times?
I'll allow that.
Her demeanor was inconsistent, erratic. The responses I would characterize as shallow, emotional responses, and that on a dime, there would be crying with no tears, and then moments later, without really any transition, it would go to a normal conversation.
Now, what would cause, what sort of lines of questioning would cause the crying with no tears and the increase in volume and rapidity of speech and things like that? When would that happen?
Anytime the pattern of questioning, pressed her on a particular issue she was uncomfortable with, that's when the defendant would become erratic and behave in that manner.
Now, I'd like to ask you just a couple questions about her story on day one on October 5th. Did you all talk to her about a trip that she had made away from the house sometime shortly after 1 a.m.?
We did.
And what was her story at that time as to what she was doing there?
At that particular time, it was to pay a front for Danny, her boyfriend at the time.
I'm asking you about the trip after 1 a.m., not the earlier one in the night. What was her story as to the trip after 1 a.m.?
After 1 a.m., that was to go see an individual by the name of Melissa Bray to get Oragel. She had just recently had her wisdom tooth pulled the day prior, and her story was she departed the residence at 1 a.m. to go get Oragel from Melissa Bray.
What was she calling Melissa Bray at that time on day one?
That was Misty, as she referred to Melissa Bray. Misty.
And initially, you were telling me about a story that she was given for a different trip, right? That was the one after 10:30, 11 o'clock or so?
That's right.
Okay. I'd like to ask you just a couple questions about the days immediately following October 5th, okay? Did a local team kind of coalesce and come together to investigate this matter?
We did.
And can you describe the composition of the local team? Like, who was involved in this thing?
Sure. So the Chatham County Police Department had two primary investigators, Detective Lemons and a Detective Noble. They were supported by a cadre of additional investigators, supervisors. Our FBI team consisted of myself, Special Agent Solomon, Special Agent Burns, and we were also supported by a cadre of FBI agents from Augusta, from Brunswick, and then at that point in time, once we had our local investigative teams together, we started reaching out to other resources that both the FBI and Chatham County had at their disposal.
Can you describe some of this outreach to other units and resources that come to mind?
Sure. So the FBI has a team referred to as the CARD team, or the Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team. So once we realized the situation at hand, we immediately sought the assistance of our Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team. We contacted our Behavior Analysis Unit at FBI headquarters in Quantico, commonly referred to as FBI profilers. They provided a substantial amount of subject matter expertise. We also contacted FBI CAST, the Cellular Analysis Survey Team. They were able to take a very detailed look at the telephones associated with this investigation. We also reached out to our CART team, Computer Analysis Response Team, and they were able to do a lot of work with a particular infotainment system within the vehicle driven by the defendant.
What about the DFAU? Did y'all use them for anything?
We did. Digital Forensics Analysis Unit, they did a lot of video, audio enhancement, specifically video enhancement, and then audio enhancement as it relates to some of the interviews to clarify various points where the audio wasn't as clear as we wanted it to be.
Can you think of any resources y'all didn't use in this case?
Truly, no. In this investigation, we utilized resources in a very finite amount of time. Really, what it spanned, probably 8 days. And normally, the investigative techniques we employed in 8 days is something that we would use across a 6-month to a year-long investigation. Just to give merit to the monumental effort, that both the FBI and the Chatham County Police Department undertook in very short order.
All in service of finding Quentin and identifying the person responsible.
Yes, sir.
Now, the plan and priorities over the first couple of days after these October 5th interviews of all these 3 people, did that include some follow-up on Henry Bubba Moss Jr.?
It did, yes, sir.
And who had point on that? What office or people?
Because at the time, Henry Moss Jr. was living in Burke County. Burke County falls under our Augusta resident agency for the FBI. So our Augusta office took lead in interviewing with Henry Moss.
Did it include some follow-up on Daniel Youngkin and his behavior and so forth that morning?
Yes, sir, it did.
All right. And who had point for that?
That was Detective Noble, I believe, as well as Special Agent Solomon.
And what was it that they did at his workplace?
When they arrived at the workplace, they sought the assistance of Danny Youngkin's boss, an individual by the first name of David, I believe. They obtained video of Danny actually departing work frantically. They could observe on the video Danny departed his place of employment in such a hasty fashion that he forgot his jacket, he forgot to clock out, and ended up encountering his supervisor as he was running to the vehicle. His supervisor described Danny hysterical and crying.
He's already answered the question. He's just giving a narrative outline and testimony at this point of other witnesses. So I'd say it's here.
That's right. I agree with you. Right.
Okay,
Let me just
thank
ask
you.
you this question about the efforts at Danny's workplace, okay? Why was it his workplace is not the scene, right?
That's correct.
Why was it important to you all to go out to his work and figure out what he looked like and acted like there?
It was a process to corroborate the story that Danny had provided at the time. It gave us the opportunity to see the immediate reaction of Danny once he received that phone call from the defendant. So that was one of the main reasons, was to corroborate the story and get that immediate reaction, something that without that video, we wouldn't be able to have observed.
Now, during this investigation, did you have kind of ongoing interactions with Danny Youngkin?
I did.
Did you get a sense in interacting with him for his level of sophistication, intelligence, and so forth?
I did.
With that background, do you believe that he would be...
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
I do not believe it does, Your Honor.
I didn't hear the question.
Okay. Do you believe that he would be capable of acting or thinking to act in a particular way?
I'm going to sustain that objection.
Okay. Let me ask you about the October 8th interview. Okay, we've heard testimony about an interview on October 8th at the FBI office in Savannah with an interviewer from Quantico named Bridget Brock. Okay, were you present for that interview?
I wasn't present for the interview, but I observed the interview in a remote location within the office.
Okay, you're watching it on like a live feed or something like that?
That's correct.
Okay. And let me ask you this about, because I don't know that I've asked anybody else this. The location in which that interview was conducted, is that in Chatham County?
It is. It's at the FBI office off Chatham Parkway here in Savannah.
Okay. And the October 5 interviews at Chatham County Police Headquarters, were those in Chatham County as well?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay. Is it fair to say that in the lead up to this October 8th interview with Bridget Brock, that the two most significant investigative findings were your interview with...
leading question.
Prior to that October 8th interview, had you interviewed Melissa Bray?
I had.
Can you tell me first about the process of locating her in the first place?
We first learned of Melissa Bray through an interview of the defendant. The defendant provided us information that she previously worked with Melissa Bray at a restaurant located off of Highway 17 and Chatham Parkway here in Savannah. And I went to the restaurant, approached Miss Bray during working hours, and asked Miss Bray if she had some time after she was off work for the day to speak with me. She advised that she did. She would be more than happy to speak with the FBI. Arrived at a residence at approximately 3:30 in the afternoon of October the 6th.
And what were you asking her? What were you looking for from her?
The main thing that we were trying to seek from Miss Melissa Bray was whether or not she had any recent interaction with the defendant.
And what did she tell you?
Miss Bray provided that she hadn't had any recent interaction. However, she provided text messages and, that the last time she had contact face-to-face with the defendant was July the 5th. She received a text message or a phone call. Actually, I believe it was a text message from the defendant. The defendant said she had run out of gas, needed a gas can. Miss Melissa Bray, as well as her husband, supported the defendant in getting that gas. And then after that, there were a series of text messages on July 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and I believe the 13th, where Miss Bray was trying to get the gas can back from the defendant. I observed the text messages myself. There was never a response. The gas can was not returned. So really, from July the 5th, there had been no contact whatsoever, according to Miss Bray, between Mrs. Bray and the defendant.
Now, in your view, did the text messages that you looked at corroborate what Melissa Bray was telling you about the last time she had seen the
Objection,
defendant?
Your Honor, comes back to opinion again.
Did the text messages corroborate what Melissa Bray was telling you?
I allow that question.
Second is objection, then a bolstering, Judge. Witness has not been attacked.
I'm going to allow the question.
Did the text messages corroborate what she was telling you?
Absolutely, 100%.
Now, so that was done before the October 8th interview with Bridget Brock.
That's correct, yes, sir.
And prior to that October 8th interview with Bridget Brock, had the investigative team obtained some important video footage?
We had.
And just broadly tell us what that was.
That was CCTV footage obtained from the Azalea Gardens trailer park.
And in this October 8th interview with Bridget Brock, did the defendant stick to the Misty story?
Absolutely.
Now, moving forward from this, that night, the night of the 8th, this is when the hotel monitoring operation was conducted, right?
That's correct.
Now, were you involved in setting that up, or at least discussing it with Daniel Youngkin?
I was.
And when had that discussion taken place?
On October the 7th.
Okay. Can you describe, approaching Danny and bringing this up, and who else might have been there for this conversation?
That was an interview conversation that we had with Danny Youngkin with Agent Savannah Solomon on October the 7th at our office. We disclosed to Mr. Youngkin, to Danny at the time, the facts that we had learned at that point in the investigation. We disclosed to Mr. Youngkin the...
Objection, Your Honor. It's a narrative from the witness again. I don't think that's the question that Mr. Dean asked him.
I asked him to describe the circumstances of approaching Mr. Youngkin about this operation, proposing this operation. This is a totally responsive answer.
It's a narrative, Judge. I mean, if he has a direct question, he needs to ask a direct question, not an open-ended one to allow the witness to say whatever he wants.
I don't think in this case it was. I'm going to overrule the objection.
You can continue.
So again, we were able to disclose to Mr. Youngkin the facts of the investigation that we had obtained at that point, and Two of those important facts at that point were the surveillance footage that we obtained from Azalea Trailer Park, as well as the interview that I had conducted the previous day of Ms. Melissa Bray, in which she had no recollection whatsoever of having any interaction with the defendant regarding the Orgel story.
And did you ask him if he would agree to this filming and audio monitoring in the hotel room?
We did.
How did he react to that?
He was on board 100%. Whatever he needed to do, he was glad to do it.
Did he seem nervous? Did he stutter? Anything like that?
No, sir.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for opinion again.
Based on, I see it based on what his observations were. I'm going to allow it.
Okay. The answer to that question was no.
That's correct.
Let me ask you about October 12th. So this would be 4 days after the October 8th interview with Bridget Brock, right?
Yes,
In which she had insisted that the Orgel story was true, right?
correct.
Now, this October 12th interview, where was it conducted?
That interview was also conducted at our FBI office here in Savannah off Chatham Parkway.
In Chatham County?
Correct.
And who was involved in this interview?
That was myself and Special Agent Solomon, also with the FBI.
What type of room did it take place in?
A large conference room, approximately half the size of this room that we're in today.
And was it recorded?
It was.
Audio and video?
That's correct, yes, sir.
In this interview, did the defendant's story change?
Yes, sir, it did.
And how did it change? In what parts of it changed, I guess?
Really, three main points came out of this interview. The first change was the admission of significant drug use on the night of the 4th and the morning of the 5th. The interaction with Miss Melissa Bray in the Orgel story, that was a significant change. Where over the course of the interview, she agreed that actually did not happen. And then we obtained significant information as it relates to her purpose in the trailer park that night and throwing away trash.
What did she say about, I mean, we're going to watch it, but kind of overview, what did she say about throwing away trash in the trailer park?
Initially, the whole purpose of going to the Azalea Trailer Park was to get the Orgel from Miss Melissa Bray. But once we confronted her that I myself had interviewed Miss Melissa Bray, and Melissa Bray was not able to corroborate that story, she told us that she also had trash in the back of the vehicle that was placed in there the night prior, or the day prior, approximately 4:30 on the 4th. And the trash, being that Miss Melissa Bray was not there, the trash was smelling up the car. So at 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:15 in the morning, when she drove by Miss Melissa Bray's house, she wasn't there. She took that opportunity to throw the trash that was in the back of the Dodge Journey into the dumpsters at Azalea Trailer Park.
Now, prior to this, on October 5th, had you all discussed with her this Azalea trip?
We had.
And had y'all discussed it with her at length on October 5th, what exactly she was doing there?
Multiple times, yes, sir.
And on October 8th, did Bridget Brock discuss this Azalea trip with her?
She did.
And was that also at length?
Yes, sir.
Now, on either of those days, October 5th and October 8th, had she said anything about throwing trash away at Azalea on that trip?
Never.
So as of October 12th, is it fair to say that this was new information from the defendant?
It was.
Did she talk to you about how much the trash weighed and Well, let me ask you this. First of all, what did she identify the trash as being specifically, to the extent you remember?
She identified it as being shrimp pasta. That was a meal that they had thrown away from a day or two prior.
Was she able to give you details on the estimated weight of the trash and the specific physical mechanics of throwing it away?
She was.
What did she say about those two things, the weight and how she did it?
When we were questioning her about that, this was towards the end of the interview, we asked how she threw the trash away. She described getting out of her vehicle on the driver's side, walking along the driver's side to the rear of the vehicle, opening the back hatch of the Dodge Journey, and then pulling the single trash bag out. She was asked how she pulled that bag out. Verbally, she said, I pulled it out with one hand, but as she was demonstrating, how she pulled the bag out, she demonstrated using two hands to throw the trash bag into the dumpster. She also described before she went to throw the bag in the dumpster, she opened the bag and described smelling the bag before she threw the bag into the dumpster.
Was she able to tell you if this really was just a bag of old food, why she would have felt the need to look inside the bag one last time before throwing it away?
We asked her that multiple times in the interview, describing, is it normal for a person to, knowing that the vehicle was had an odor to it, is it normal for a person to smell the trash before they throw it in the dumpster? And the defendant really didn't have an explanation for that other than she was just smelling the trash before she threw it away.
At some point in this interview, did she say anything about taking responsibility?
She did.
What do you remember her saying about that?
We'll see it in the interview, but I can't recall verbatim, but it was something to the effect of, if I did this, I'll take responsibility. Verbatim, I can't recall exactly what she said.
Yes, Your Honor.
The jury's indicated that they need a break. I figured they would need one at about 10:30 because we've been going at it now for about an hour and 15 minutes. So I'm going to ask you to stop at this point. I'm going to, let's take a 15-minute break. We'll come back, resume with this witness, cross with this witness, and then I anticipate probably breaking for lunch after that.
It's about time. I've been waiting for somebody else to say it.
Okay. All right, 15-minute break. It's 10:30. We'll be back at 10:45.
Juries exiting.
All right. Thank you, Williams. All right, 15 minutes. Do you want to talk about what you want to talk about now, or you want to save it for the lunch break?
I can talk to Tim real quick and find out.
Y'all talk, and then we'll come back together. All right. We're in recess.
All right, as you heard, the court is in recess. You can expect this live stream to return around 12:15 just because we are on a 30-minute delay. So stay tuned with us. We'll be back as soon as the court returns. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. We're expecting court to get back started in just a few moments, but just to recap everything we've heard on this Monday morning, we heard from 2 FBI special agents detailing the initial investigations in this case, and as well as cell phone records that were reviewed for the investigation. So I'm going to play you a clip of what we just heard before they broke for this break, and this is FBI Special Agent Brian Snyder talking about those initial interviews with Leilani Simon shortly after Simon reported Quentin missing. So here's that interview. Seems like we don't have sound. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so while we don't have sound on that, that was just a back and forth with the prosecution and FBI agent Brian Snyder talking about those first interviews and how he perceived Leilani in those interviews. So make sure to stay tuned with us. Court is going to return. I'll give you a live look inside the courtroom right now. They should be returning any moment now, so stay tuned with us.
Okay, are we ready to begin?
We are, Judge. Did you want me to go ahead and kind of deal with what we need to deal with before lunch or after lunch?
Should it be on the record or off the record?
We can go on the record, Judge.
Okay, SBCR 22-03364J6. We're now back on the record. Before we bring the jurors out, Mr. Hilliard, you said there's something you'd want to bring up.
Yeah, I'm just waiting on this side.
All right, for the record, Ms. Simon is present in court and she is seated with her counsel. Counsel for the state are present as well. Mr. Hilliard?
Yes, last night I received an email from Mr. Dean late in the evening saying that he, as well as Detective Lemons and I believe it was Agent Snyder, if I'm not mistaken, had interviewed and spoken with Craig Weston and Tim Weston, and they were going to add them to the witness list and supplement the witness list. And my understanding was that they were to be called this afternoon. So, one, I would object to that under 1716.6. And again, It may be somewhere, but I have not seen, at least in the last two witness lists, either Craig or Tim Weston listed as witnesses. It may have been in an early one, and I missed it, number one, so I'll acknowledge that, but I don't think I did. I did go back and look, and I haven't seen them listed as witnesses heretofore until now. So we object on that as not being timely disclosed. Second, I would like to at least be given an opportunity to interview those witnesses. So on the one hand, I moved to exclude it under 1716.6 as not being properly disclosed 10 days prior to trial. We're on the 9th day of jury selection and trial at this point. So obviously I don't think it fits in the 1716.6, number one. So we moved to exclude both of those witnesses. Number two, if the court does not so exclude those witnesses, then I at least would like to have an opportunity to speak with those witnesses prior to them being called, given the statements that I'm being told or proffered that were made.
All right, thank you. Mr. Dean?
Your Honor,
Ms.
I'm going to
Ms. Parker?
respond on behalf of the state. Your Honor, excluding these witnesses is...
Ms. Parker, yeah,
I'll
just,
turn this one on. Can you hear me? Okay. Your Honor, excluding these witnesses is not the proper remedy here, especially when there is no unfair surprise. These witnesses, while not on the witness list, were included in materials that were provided to the defense. They have been referenced during the trial, even referenced by Mr. Hilliard. He was aware that these people existed. They're not somebody that we've just pulled out of thin air. The circumstances of the trial have caused us to change our mind about calling them. There is evidence that's now ruled admissible that includes text messages related to the Westons, and so we've decided we want to include them in our case. The defense could have talked to these people at any time. They were aware of them, and whether they want to have an opportunity to talk to them, that's fine. It's, of course, up to the witnesses where they're willing to talk to them or not. That's not really our choice or something the court can order them to do. That's up to them. But we would like to call them this afternoon.
Go ahead, Mr. Hilliard.
I didn't know the state's position, but now that I know it, I can state a little bit further. 1716.6, Judge, by the way, we did opt into discovery in this case. The discovery statute was invoked, which means that 1716.6 comes into play. 1716.6 states specifically, if at any time during the course of the proceedings it is brought to the attention of the court, the state has failed to comply with the requirements of this article, which in this case would be disclosure of witnesses 10 days prior to trial once discovery has been opted into, the court may order the state to permit the discovery or inspection, interview of the witness, grant a continuance, or upon showing of prejudice and bad faith, prohibit the state from introducing the evidence not disclosed or presenting the witnesses not disclosed, or may enter such other order as it deems just under the circumstances. At any time during the course of the proceedings, it is brought to the attention of the court that defendants fail to comply, those same remedies can be brought against us. I'm not the one positing or seeking to add 2 new witnesses in the middle of a trial. The one thing that is explicitly absent from this is me looking through and seeing that this was in evidence. My understanding is the court's ruling was those text messages were admissible. That doesn't mean because the state changes its mind 24 hours later they get to go back and then start adding witnesses. If we do that, the trials would never get finished. So I do believe it's prejudice. Giving me 2 witnesses and their statements at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night is definitely prejudicial when you're going to call them less than 12 hours later or 24 hours later. Number one. And number two, it's bad faith at this point. If they had thought they were going to call them as a witness, they've had 2 years to put them on the witness list, which they're admitting they didn't do. So the proper remedy under that is to exclude the witnesses. It does not affect their ability to get into the text messages, which is what the court's ruling dealt with from my understanding. So again, we object. I understand the court has to make its decision and will abide by that decision, but I don't think that they've complied with the discovery statute. I don't think that just because they've changed their mind over the weekend, their failure to comply with the discovery statute makes it permissible. So I think the witnesses should be excluded.
Thank you, Mr. Hilliard. Ms. Parker, anything else?
Just a moment.
Amanda. Ms. Parker?
Your Honor, I just wanted to point out that these particular witnesses were interviewed by law enforcement back when this case was investigated. That was provided to the defense. They're aware of these witnesses. So there's a whole long line of cases about unfair surprise. There is no unfair surprise here or prejudice to the defendants because the defense has been aware of these people all along. We can pull some of those cases for the court, but I mean, there's 50 years worth of case law on unfair surprise.
What the court is going to do is this. Mr. Hilliard may have an opportunity to interview those witnesses, and of course, that's if the witnesses wish to be. But he'll certainly have an opportunity to do that. I'm not going to exclude the witnesses, but you'll have an opportunity to speak with them.
I understand, Judge. That's why I said I need to at least speak to them. So.
I understand, Mr. Hilliard. Thank you very much. Is there anything further we need to take up before proceeding?
The only thing I might mention to the court is that the next thing we're going to do is introduce this October 12th interview video. It's extremely long in its unredacted form. Trimmed some stuff and redacted some stuff, and we end up with the final exhibit, final product. It's like an hour and 13 minutes long. We're fine to proceed, but I wanted to just make the court aware of that before we do that. I don't know whether the court wants to do it now or ask the jury what the jury wants to do or what.
My inclination is to go ahead and do this before lunch. And then after you complete your direct, Mr. Hilliard, you could either do your cross before we break, or you could save your cross for after the lunch break.
To avoid a rebellion, Judge, I will most likely do it after the lunch break.
Yeah. The court would not rebel, but jurors may not be happy.
The jurors may.
Right. All right. Bring in the jurors, please.
Jurors entering.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please have a seat. We're back from your break. I trust you were able to observe the instructions. Okay, thank you. And so we're going to resume now with the state's evidence at this portion. I will tell you this. The court anticipated breaking for lunch after this witness. During this, there's going to be a video, however, that's about an hour and 15 minutes long. Can y'all wait till after all this to get to lunch?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. I thought that would be the response, and that was my hope that would be your response. So we're going to proceed now.
Do you have up there with you this marked as State's Exhibit 70?
I do.
Can you tell us what that is?
It's a recorded interview from October the 12th, interview at the FBI office here in Savannah, Georgia.
Now, is that the entirety of the original recording of that interview?
It is not.
Can you tell us what has been cut off from the front end and where we're going to pick up?
We're going to pick up approximately 30 minutes plus or minus into the interview. There's a significant amount of rapport building, nothing really substantive to the case that takes place in the first portion of the interview that's cut out, that's redacted.
Okay. Does the recording on this disc fairly and accurately depict the portions of the interview that we've included here?
It does, absolutely.
And other than trimming some material off the front and back end and redacting some inadmissible information. Has it been altered or modified in any way?
It is not.
Your Honor, I would introduce this as State's Exhibit 70.
Subject to the redactions we've already discussed, no redactions.
Now, when we open this thing and start playing it, first of all, what are we going to see initially?
This is the conference room, a large conference room in the Savannah office of the FBI. You'll see myself on the right side of your screen, the defendant seated at a small circular table in the middle, and then Special Agent Solomon on the left side of your screen.
I'm going to take the time to get it up here because it does seem like some people have been watching on this screen as opposed to the other one. Okay. And what are we going to hear you say at the outset here?
At the outset is an apology, to the defendant based off a conversation that the defendant and I had following an October the 8th interview. That interview taking place also at the office, FBI office in Savannah.
Just briefly, what were you apologizing for, just, so we know what is going on here?
Sure. After the interview was complete, I went and wanted to impress upon the defendant the gravity of this case. It was really a one-way conversation. I explained to the defendant that the entire weight of the FBI and the Chatham County Police Department were going to ensure that justice was served in this case, that we were going to find Quentin and bring anyone responsible for that to justice.
And that was on October 8th after the interview with Bridget Rock?
Absolutely.
All right. With that preview, I'll go ahead and publish this by playing it for the jury. I want to tell you, I might stop it from time to time and ask you kind of what was that question and what did she say, because the audio is, I think it's passable, but it's not outstanding. Fair to say?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
All right.
Well, I just wanted to apologize. I think you, of all people, know how stressful this entire situation is. Again, we've been working 20-hour days and doing the best that we absolutely can to find Quentin. And I hope you understand that. And the stress that's involved in that.
It's on everybody.
It is.
It's on everybody.
And yesterday or 2 days ago, probably should have just walked away. And probably let my emotions get the best of me. And I want you to understand that I apologize for that. And it's not lost on me. There's really, you don't have another adult, male figure that you can,
And we was able to get that support from us, and he was just like,
so I'm sure you feel like I sort of
abandoned.
Trust what you feel, when we had that conversation. And then we talked to your mom just 2 days ago. And your mom, tells us that it was just a day or so ago that your stepfather was able to give you a hug.
It was the first week that she was seeking for me. And I needed that. And that moment was like just a moment of comfort. That's what it was.
So I'm sorry, but there's some things we're talking about today. So what's going on at the house right now? Are you staying with your mom right now?
At the moment, until we can get into the housing through the ministry, because they're gonna help me get somewhere. And the moment that I'll give you all the address and everything here. But I'm trying to do that so we can do what we got to do with the case to get the case in.
Who all staying at the house right now?
Right now, my brother's gonna be there until the 18th, possibly longer. Paul's there. Everybody that's originally lived there. But with the addition of my brother, Beth. Beth, you said the kids before. I got back on 11. She took care of your house, baby.
Jim, I'll tell you, we found Beth in bed.
they searched the canal, they searched the land, so y'all done any more of that?
No, we've been trying not to trample on anything that could possibly lead to anything.
Yeah.
You know, so honestly, I feel like if you do go walk around, when you do see something, don't touch it.
That's the right thing, call us.
Take a picture of it, call them, send it to them, tell them the location, don't touch it, whatever it is. You know, I don't want them walking into the woods or anything like that because there's sense and cover up something that could be there.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that was the last thing I think the dogs were doing today, since it went back to, I told you on this phone, talked to you directly when, we went back, Tuesday? I don't remember the days of the week right now, Monday, because like I said, we couldn't see a lot in the dark, and the dogs, I guess, work the same way, and the dogs don't live here, so they had to do that on its own, but,
That's kind of interesting with everything that we want to do to make sure that we do absolutely everything we can and that we get it all right. We don't want to miss anything. And I know that's important to you. Right? Yes. So with that, I mean, just kind of, not wanting to put words, in your mouth, but being the time and space that's passed since we last talked, maybe, there's a chance that you were calling things, differently or something new that, it just didn't come up before that we didn't ask. Yeah, we've been getting it to the long run every day.
well, and you know what, so what's Wednesday was the biggest shock, right? And you're trying to get everything in order of what you think happened.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you get a chance to breathe a little, it's, I think I might have said this to someone this week, but you ever drive home and you're like, how'd I get here? Because you're on this autopilot, but then you really think like, oh, there was a yellow car. And now you've had time to get farther down the road. And so if you remember something differently right now, it's not because you were wrong then. It's because, okay, I've had time to just kind of let it settle and see things more clearly when, the shock of it all has had a chance to kind of come down. So we're not going to come down if anything's different because there's a lot to be said for some time and space to kind of things that you didn't think about before because they weren't the big things or,
It's funny, that's all we also got was a little church picture there. They were asking me that too, like, can you think of any physical detail that you could mix? I keep on improving. The only thing that makes sense, the only thing that completely has me baffled is the door to the back door.
the opening including.
It would be from to the platform, but that is the only thing that I keep on going back to thinking.
And to be honest, we're double checking, beyond just that data that Joe had, to see like what does this really mean?
Yeah.
So we're again running through that carpet on every single thing.
So with that in mind, let's just kind of go through, a few things. So let's just start with Circle K. Tell me about the phone call that you made. I guess it was that Tuesday night or Wednesday morning to Circle K. It was a quick phone call. I can't honestly remember if it was on my phone or Jamie's phone. It was from one of the phones. I called him and I said, boy, Joe, they're not having for me.
They keep such low stock.
They didn't have any, so that's why I went and got Misty. Right? I really did go and get word from Misty. There was 3 tubes of oil and there 2 were empty. And one still had some in it. And the one that had some in it was the one I guess we put for her.
clear on what she said. Was that her disclosing a new fact that you hadn't heard before?
That's correct.
What was that new fact?
At this point in the interview, she disclosed that the purpose of the trip to 204 was to get a perk 30, a Percocet 30.
Yeah, did she say whether she had taken it that night?
She did.
And her words here were, "I was on drugs," right?
Correct.
All right, and I'll pick that up. That was paused at 14:46:05 on the timestamp in the top right corner.
It wasn't for the sons. I was for the sons. I didn't want to put the house in class. Okay, because someone was not. Yeah.
But that's huge for us too.
Yeah,
So you just tell us the whole thing.
Yeah, so it was off Corley Lane. You think that's the name? I never knew the name until you told me.
You just know where to go.
I just know where to go. I went there. That's where I did nothing. I think it was one.
Now, pausing at 14:46:34, did she just say that the place she had actually gone to meet the drug dealer was Arkwright Lane and not Flacco's Tacos, as she had said previously?
That's correct.
All right.
And I know they said that they never knew us, never seen us or anything like that.
But we're retracing.
I was like, they know me. I have been there probably about 100 times in a couple months. You know, like, so that they all know me there. Yeah.
And that was let's talk to that. What trip was that? That was the
That was the trip to 204. I was at 10 something. A little bit after. We got there at 2:40 something. I got home at 2:40 something. Yeah, I was before.
And tell me about that. You know, how was that perk? You drive back home and then
I actually got home. I can't home. what I called her. It was like 229, I believe I called.
229.
Her number is, yeah, it was 229 text now number or something. For the longest time, the phone wasn't on. So she had no work.
Prior to that, when was the last time that you had any communication with Miss?
When I ran out of gas. I was on the public road, and I walked down to the house, and knocked on the door, and asked her for a gas can, and her and her husband walked with me. All they asked, okay, they get gas. And we went all the way back to the car. And that was a stupid night. I was very angry about some cheating that I found out what was going on. Maybe June, but that was right after the baby was born. Yeah. So, it was
No, just tell me exactly how, when you drove into the trailer park, how you drove in and where Missy's house is.
when they drive in, Missy's house is one of Mary's houses on like the right-hand side. So I walked in, and she walked up, and pulled on.
So you went to Missy's house, and did you go inside her house? She was just standing
I just
outside?
down, so,
Okay.
yeah, I was trying to run, like, I knew it was good.
How long did y'all interact there with Missy? How long were you there talking?
2 or 3 minutes, it was a quick little conversation. How are you going out to her mouth doing this? She does some crap expense, but she did while she was outside. So that was part of it. And then when I got in the car, or whatever, we did mention some of the trash. Yeah, we did put the trash. And Stan was supposed to take trash out a few days ago, and there was spoiled food all in my car. So I pulled around and seen my gas stopping up there with my trash. And it was ports, like shrimp pasta.
Shrimp pasta?
Yeah. The whole car smelled like shrimp. Yeah, because I got in there, I was like, what is that smell? I felt that before, even though I go to 204. You know? I felt that before, and I'm like, get out of the car. You know, look, and we use Glade trash bags. Okay, I'll say that Glade gray trash bags is what we use.
So did you stop anywhere else at all?
I went straight back home, and that's when I broke my phone the wrong way. I don't know, it's when it's supposed to not. A little time to be supposed to go in the corner. I got home when, outside. I checked my kids when outside, so I just stayed here and sort of I went to bed for doing it. Then I woke up. I didn't know Danny got in bed. Even Michelle thought it was weird that he didn't bring all the kids over there, because like I said, I pay for 5 days of the week and machine. Right off of it. So whether I go to work or not, we do it that way so we have a steady pay rate. And sometimes my pay might be, I might have to pay a little bit then and then catch over in a couple of days. Anything like that, we got issues like that, but she's always been paid. She's always been paid.
Sounds like you were asleep when you were.
I didn't hear an alarm go off. Danny said that he shook me before he left. I didn't feel that. I didn't know that he even left. And I was like, I woke up. Surprised, honestly, that Scott and the kids and then Clinton wasn't there. And I don't know how to react. I freaked out. They woke up to me screaming and they talking about something. So, it was everything straight down to the T. What I did, and like I said, we can see, make sure that the oil and coming out.
Well, let's look at this. Maybe some of this stuff will help you recall some more detail. So I'm going to slide over here. See the side for a minute. So this is the photo of your car. That's your car, right? That's your car. Going into the trailer park. And where exactly is this in the trailer park with the car trailer?
Yeah, it looks like we get up to the road, we go to the line, and we go down the street to the research center.
Okay. So that's when you first pull in, and this is trailer down here.
Yeah, I think it's on the first floor, and the other one's coming out. It's not going to tell them.
Because right here, got out of the car, and you got out of your driver's side door, what did you do? You walked along
The driver's side.
to the back. And when you got back in the car, like you did the trash, or you went to get the trash out of the hatch portion.
Yeah, like I opened it, but there was the car here. Other faces, like birds, yeah, out there like this, yeah. Got out and you're there, you were like, walking to the car, and just kind of walking around the car.
Do you think that this camera, that's exactly what the commission
It's exactly what it's mentioned. So we get out the front side, we grab it, we'll see the message for a second, so I think stone. And I was getting the grab of it. I grab it, but I got part of the other time. It's just a story. So that's exactly what I do in the home. Straight back home, I didn't leave the house until y'all took me leave. And that was it, yeah. That's about it. That's all. That's exactly what I did. The trash bag things, we always have, no matter what, so it's trying to always use clay. And the ones that we have are clay, gray, looking trash bags, I guess, almost.
Did you throw anything else away?
No.
That was the only thing.
That was the only thing that was back there. That was nasty. And I was thinking about sleeping out of a cereal, but if someone wants something to wine, I should. Then I asked me what's on the stuff, and it was baby cereal. It was rice based on real baby cereal. I had somebody give me some, and one of them, she had just opened, and her baby didn't do it. So when it was back there, I guess one of the turns, I felt like there's something that just busted open in the back, and I never read it.
There's something else I want to grab. Just give me a minute. I'll be right back. Today, just sitting down with you, we learned a lot. The investigation and the truthfulness. And you just said
Just
something
hoping
earlier.
any of that might at least maybe help y'all connect some
No,
dots.
just you simply being honest with us for the first time. For the first time, I spent
I have a problem with worrying about other people's safety, other people who can afford it. I mean, I'm not gonna be illicit, you know, and then just, I put a fight for myself. And that's how I end up in those situations that I'm in. Because by the time that I realized I haven't taken care of myself, it was too late. You know? So, we don't ask that ourselves if people are not saying, what did I not tell the truth about? I told the truth about what to afford. That's the truth about where it's stopping. I didn't. Yeah.
just that little bit. But let's carry that a little bit further. At this point, we're talking about Corley. We're not talking about things over there. And right now, when it comes to Corley, I don't care about Corley or not. So I want you to understand that. But let's take this truth and this path that you're walking down and down, and take that a little bit further. Because, before it was just, let me pay back a drug thing. $20. But now, kind of opened it up. Now Corley is the utmost thing that's important in my mind. And that's all you're thinking about. Because we don't know if we're going to get money back. So with that in mind, let's carry that to the next step. And the next logical step is you got the cover sets. But who did you get the cover sets from? They were talking about Corley.
Yeah, it was people, but there's multiple people there. There's Fred, there's Craig, there's Tim.
So who named you Craig?
But he probably was Craig.
Correct. And you tell me about Craig.
I'm going 5 to 6 years.
5 to 6 years.
And it's one person every time I was managing for him, I would help anything that was the only person I ever liked.
Yes, right.
He's a taller black man. He's 46 years old. Dark skin, long dreads. He's actually a very nice guy, That's what he Other than that, we've never actually like hung out, but just we go by there and get what I want, you know. When I first met him, that's how we even became like that, because I stood there and they would smoke me up to the point that I could even like, come on, my friend, I don't know. So that's how all that started. I only hit him up when I needed something. And sometimes go in and call. It was just pull up, knock on the door.
So is he the man that you have?
Yeah.
Is he with in the camper?
Yeah.
He comes to the house?
Yeah, he didn't come to my house.
So he comes to the camper?
He goes to the camper in the back of that same property. There's on the very back of the property too. There's a camper back there and some other old houses back there.
What kind of car is he driving?
The white van is one of them. I want to say it's like up over 2010 maybe, something like that. And he's got a black truck. There's only two guys up for the front of the guys, but they always try different vehicles. Try to be smarter. So it's hard, but I know for a fact that he just consistently drives a white van.
That's what you would think when you go to your house.
Yeah, well, he never came to my house ever. Never came to my house. Yeah, he never knew it came to my house. I don't know. Did he know about the area I stayed at? Yeah. Did he ever come to the house? You know, I've always came out there. There's only one other time that he actually met me somewhere right there next to a base of those peanuts before Walgreens. Where that car wash is. And that was a couple weeks ago.
Well, I've seen that one. Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Like, that would be something that would have been great for us to know.
Yeah.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Okay. So just those little things are what help us find claims. Okay.
There were a few times that I did go over the case. They stayed in the car with me, they gave me one, I have one, whatever. And the last time that happened, Scott was 2 weeks old. Basically, it was nobody helped him, nobody got called, nothing like that. They just, that was it.
When did you put the trash bag? So you wanted to go and get the oil job. Was the trash bag already in the car?
Yeah, like I could smell it when before I even like when I got in the car to begin with, maybe 2 o'clock or something. Yeah, and I think he put it in the car earlier that day because like it's maggots or anything, like you could smell it. It was nasty, and whenever he forgot to take it off. So when I finally got in the car again to go to the order job, so much of it was dumpsters in here somewhere. We go fix the dumpsters and go away. I had to go on.
Was it like full kitchen trash? Or is it just like
Full kitchen, like full fridge clean out. Yeah. So.
I just want to leave you, with this. I want you to understand that Savannah and I here, this investigation is going to continue. We march on. If there ever is a point in time.
That's why I made sure that I had this children and I had one of those numbers. So I'm telling you that when my brother, when he came, we sat there, we walked through it. He's like, well, let me ask some questions that maybe somebody didn't ask. I'm like, maybe you don't think it was something like, maybe just didn't think of nothing all the time. So every single day, even when I had coffee, we sat down and we talked to it. And we talked to it. And we talked to it over and over and over again. And he's a big confidant for me. And he also just let him scream. And they woke me up last night. I was crying in my sleep. They were still yelling, quit it. In my sleep. I was really hurt. I want to hold state myself. I did weeks.
Well, I want you to know that I, myself, have spoken with Missy. Multiple other investigators have spoken with Missy. Missy has been to our office. You didn't talk to Missy tonight. You didn't. So let's just get through the raw truths. Because, however this plays out, Missy did not have any communication. There's no record of that. Missy came and she talked to the FBI, she talked to, law enforcement. And she had no recollection. But she did tell me the truth. You did tell me that you ran out of gas. And you had to get some gas from it. That's absolutely true. But what's not the truth, what is not the truth, you understand this, is you didn't go see Missy that night to get over shot. So just tell me what you were doing in that tree bar. What were you doing in that tree bar?
I think the board took it over, John.
But you didn't get it from Missy.
I don't really know exactly what got it wrong.
But you didn't get it from Missy.
Right around. Yeah, the perk and all that stuff before I was right around the smoke and whatever. And honestly, I think they'll be there hoping that their light was on. Hoping that something was on in the car and wrecked something. I never even know.
But that takes us to this right here.
Yeah.
That takes us to this.
Yeah. But,
So we get that.
yeah, it's like a road. And we go around the road. Smoke something.
Smoke some what?
Some weed.
With who?
Yeah, no, I was alone. Nobody was with me. I told Andy I was driving over the road and he was half asleep, so I didn't know what was going on.
So like this is, look at me, I'm just looking close. This is what I want you to understand. And take a deep breath. We were talking about Corley. And right now I'm just sitting here talking to you. We talked about purposes that you got.
So now I am able to figure out. But now it's like,
I get that. But you gotta understand that you have got to be 100% truthful about it. 100%. That's the only way that we're going to get on.
I didn't speak to the super, but I did cover the house and just find out something a little.
Okay, but that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Because
If the light was on, I wouldn't knock the report. You know?
so did you get work last night?
I did get work early
What did
night.
you get work on?
But I found it and the card was one of the ones I lost. And I found it when I got back to the house. And I got a pocket on it.
So the whole purpose of this trip
Was to see if Missy was home. Because honestly, I didn't have a number anymore and anything. And when I got him, text him. It wasn't on there anymore because it gave me a number.
So help me understand this. I mean, I need your help here. Without you, I can't find money. Okay? So you've got to help me understand this. So in your house at 1:11
Yeah, it's like 13, 1:16,
to go randomly drive to Missy's house.
She's normally up. They're all normally up when I ran on the gas.
The last time that you saw her was
When I ran on the gas that night, it was 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And I went over there and got her and said, if she didn't answer, I didn't see her for play. I ran through, I threw away, it was smell like she was nasty. I think it was like old seafood and nuggets on it. Yeah.
It smelled a lot worse than that.
That's how it got. And I got over that and I was all just, I didn't go anywhere else. I didn't leave my phone anywhere. Everywhere I went, just right there.
So really what you did was you left the house at 1:12 in the morning to go throw away trash.
No, I really knocked on her door. I told her, like, look, there's nobody on in the fight that her son died. Whereas wasn't there.
Was not there.
No, it's normally parked in the front. There's like a tree right there. And he normally thinks if he gets there, you can see it from the road.
Well, that's the photograph right there of you pulling into Jose's trailer park.
Now it's fall down and you kind of look over there and you can see the photo. You can see
There's
it.
not quite. I just want you to see this. You know, there's a hard right. So you look straight this way. This is the data right off of last yourself on that, okay?
And if you look down, you can see your tree, and it's right there in front of the house. You can see it. And if a porch light was on, we would stand light on it. There's time when a person his bike against a tree. And normally if that bike is there, somebody is up because he's down. You know, like, so I got home, and I went to the car and I found the little truck in between the seats, and I think it was on there. I don't know where I kept on from. So I'm putting an order one because of my boss. I'm not going to have to take problems for it. But no, I did not leave that morning with the sole purpose of phone charge. It was with, okay, well, I know this has not problems. And I can't find it. Let me go see it. We're going to porch light it.
So is more gel more powerful than peroxide?
When it's on the inside of your tooth, because my tooth is broken down or whatever, I needed something that would take the pain away until the Percocet fully hit. You know, so I put it back there. It's like comfortable. And when it actually fully hit me, by the time I got home, and I was sitting there, like, it started to hit, and I left. But I could just feel it coming on.
When you left work?
I left the house.
But you took the Percocet when you got back to the
Yeah,
house?
but it was like 11. Yeah, no, I didn't take it as soon as I got back home. I took it 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Oh, whatever.
So like a lot of
It was 11 or something. It takes about an hour for it to hit and there's some change.
It takes an hour for Percocet to hit.
Normally, it depends on if it's fast acting or if the pill is old. But that pill, I think it was old. It took a little bit longer to hit. And obviously, it's probably because people can't get all of these scripts that easy.
But it's strong.
It was from when it did hit. It had a delayed reaction to being old. But when it hit, it hit. And it said T189, so I know for a fact that was right. My sole purpose was really to go and see if they had the shoes on. You know, or there were no weapons on, and the pipe was in there, so I just kept on driving. And I got the car, and I couldn't get up, so I was in that right there, and did the way he was supposed to go over there earlier that day, after we got the teeth and stuff.
So you only went through your trash? Where
Yeah.
do you put that trash in?
Normally we take it to Azalea or Cottondale. Cottondale is the two places that we go to, and every now and then my brother told Danny about taking it to Slate because I guess they had construction or whatever going on, they wouldn't have a problem with it going on.
When did he put that in the car?
When we got back to the house before we picked up the kids, so when we got home, then they said we were trying to clean up, make dinner, all this stuff, get things ready for when we did pick up the kids at 4:30. So part of that cleaning was cleaning up the fridge and, you know, everything when we come to the shop and everything. And we never ended up going shopping for the car. Because that's what we were wanting to do. We wanted to move eggs, all that stuff we did.
So you threw that in the van before supper?
Yeah.
Y'all don't use the big trash cans for out?
No, he was supposed to put it all in there. He was supposed to put them all in there. And it's like he got distracted or something. He put one there or one somewhere. I don't know. But that one was nasty. He was supposed to take it off. And it's because Thomas gets mad when because they haven't had it on like it. Like, that bag of trash was already started before we even got to cleaning out the fridge. It was already sitting in the trash can. When we got there, we finished cleaning it out. And that's how we looked in there. We didn't have gnats and flies and all that stuff in the house, fruit flies and all whatever. And I think it's just because of the weather changing. And yeah, later that was nasty as well. Like the food ourselves, like the one we pulled out of the fridge, like it's not good.
In the fridge?
Yeah, like it was, but there's some shit all the way sometimes. And when it don't, you know, milk was spilled by ages, so it was spilled the wrong way. It was yogurt the wrong way, it was eggs that were nasty, and a big bowl of pasta salad that was
So again, that trash bag was in the car.
before I got
When did the trash bag get placed in the car?
I can't tell you exactly the time. I know it was before we he texted the babysitter and said that they're not coming. So if they're not coming and you were up at that time, you knew the babies were there. You know? I just don't know.
It's a course investigation. The last time they saw any sort of credibility as seeking quantity is 4:30. That's the last time. So we can't confirm anything as it relates to today or anything after 4:30. It comes down to stuff that's just as simple as this. This is what it says. You tell us that you want to do some investigative for the job. Now, hey, I'm not a narcotics agent by any stretch. She can't tell me. It just doesn't focus.
The way you release, when it starts doing, there's sometimes that I've had to take 2 or whatever because we wait an hour and it doesn't hit. And all my snaps, there's really a lot of facts that have to do with the fact that I was snorting because we could have been classroom. No, I just learned that. I didn't know what they were for all that happened. Tuesday. Yeah, and the day this week. Yeah, and that Wednesday. Yeah. I was class on the
So you, at that time,
Kurt, Coke, weed, and whatever they shot in my mouth.
all in and around, all between 4:30 Tuesday night.
Yeah, that was it. And then we worked from there.
So where did you get the coke from?
I already had that for a few days. It's going to give me Marvin and stay on the road.
Martin.
Yeah.
Tell me about Martin.
And Marvin was a co-worker at Danny's who we used to be. We were a couple of us together. Yeah, he's got that.
What's Martin's last name?
I have no idea. It's Marvin. So I call him and we both call and go to his house somewhere. So this is, he stays off of Colin. So you come down here and we're trying to figure it out. This is the 4 ways to come up here. It's going to be off one of these streets over here. Conan? Yeah, no, like C-O-W-A-N. Okay, County. And we got that from there. I think Danny was when we bought that bit from him. And it's, like I said, it's like there's a little corner store. But there's this little corner store down here. You keep going on, it's this first street, and it's the last house on the right-hand side.
And Martin, blackout. Tell me about Martin.
He's still doing it, so is weed. He's come to the house a few times. I've been giving them baby beds and big clothes and stuff for their little baby that clean and they're going out of whatever. And he had just recently started selling coke and Danny had bought like a tea from him or something like that. For a baby coke or something. And he first sent like 40. So, yeah, we received this, I think it's Marvin Smith, is someone that would be one of our cash outs. When did you bring her? A day or so before. So Sunday? Yeah, something like that, maybe Tuesday.
So when did you use that room, that code?
I was a daily user.
A daily user.
I used to do that. So you wake up and you know, I'm more like I wake up and about after 2 or 3 yesterday. So I do it throughout the night. And then I go to bed and then about. Sometimes it's before 2, sometimes it's after 4. It just depends on how much I'm doing and what time of day I was having.
So just before you left to go take the trash to the lake, you had on cocaine and we upset and
it hurts, yeah. And like the goal wasn't to take the trash out. The goal was to see if she was there. I tried to get in contact with her. I don't know her name on Facebook, but I knew where she stayed at. And that's because I had taken her home before when we worked at those people together. And I did the same thing up to the regular, drop her off and wash her.
But you see this path that we're going down, right? So, again, you're doing great. You're doing great, and this is the type of stuff that's going to help us find out. Okay? But, we have to find out what else. What else is it that you're holding back? Because, now...
I'm not holding anything back. There's details about 2 or 4, and right there, that's huge. That's everything. Those are the only two things that I have that I didn't want to go to or get in trouble or whatever. And I didn't really know how to 100% explain why the hell I just left and, didn't call her or whatever. It's because I didn't have her contact. I used to. I got a text now they changed my number, so I couldn't call her, but I didn't have her contact.
Remember when you started cooking on Tuesday? Before or after you left?
It was not long after we started doing it. He already had it. I can't tell you exactly what day he bought it. And some of those who can go, because they were off all the time. And everybody's like, no. Yeah, see the doors opening up constantly over the period of time. A lot of us going in and out smoking cigarettes because we don't know how to do it.
Yeah. So when you started before you picked up the kids, and you used it through the night?
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't matter. It's just whatever makes you high and makes people numb and not hurt. And so I do. I feel my teeth, my snorting, I never smoked it.
So when you come back home from taking the trash to the dumpster, do you do more coke when you get back home?
I got it in the lines and everything. I got to do that. A prop food, you know what I mean? And that's
Where do you do that? Part of the house?
that stand up under the TV that's hanging on the wall in the room. And it was always on top of that. And high end, we didn't have to go down or something like that. And we had it in that cabinet, it was crazy.
And so you're doing the coke, and that's while the back door is opening and shutting.
Constantly, because every time we hit one, we don't smoke a little cigarette. We hit one, we don't smoke a cigarette. Me, I was hit one to smoke weed and a cigarette. Weed was always mixed in with whatever I was doing.
Let's go from, just like we did with the 911 call. Maybe this is why I don't hear the call something. So let's go backwards from the point that you were stopped in front of these dumpsters. So you were stopped in front of these dumpsters for how long?
Just like a minute.
And just tell me from the time that you pull off, so the time that you pull off, tell me, kind of in reverse order, what happened from the time that you pull off.
The time of the reverse order, so I'm backwards from me. Drive by, I look down, I see no light, I see nobody there. Before that,
Just before that, so we've already moved a couple steps before, so just before that, so that would include, going backwards from when you pull off, that would include, getting back in the car, and then from there.
Did you turn the car off?
yeah.
You just left it running and ran, got up back?
Yeah. And I looked at it first, I can probably see it on camera because I really thought that he had already thrown it away and took the kid, or looked at the kid. And I opened it first and I was just like, okay, close it.
So you open the trash bag before you throw it in the dumpster?
Yeah, I didn't know what it was. Like, I knew that all the trash needs to be taken out, and I knew I had told them to take that out first, especially even if it was just one bag of tape, because it's not terrible, I said, like, get out and open it. I closed it. Like, it was already kind of partially tight, but not completely tight, which is why the car is not really good.
So let's talk about that piece right there. And we're going to break this down piece by piece, so just so we can understand, okay? That's the only reason we're doing this. Because, you told us just sitting here how long that trash bag was placed in the car just before you went to pick up the kid, and you knew that was the dinner from the night before.
It was probably, it was just old food, like older, so it's clean out of the fridge.
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I can't help understand this. Do you think that that's something common that people do is before they put trash away, to open it up and look at it and see what they're about to throw away?
Yeah, we don't really know exactly what it is, and it was like not completely tight. I probably would have even opened it when I recorded it. It became a little bit open.
But you could smell it.
And I could smell it. So like, it's not like I opened the whole bag and looked in it or whatever. I'm just like, oh, okay. Yeah.
All right, so let's keep on going. So you pull the bag out of the car and you opened it to smell it. And you tie it back up.
Not too small. I could smell it. It was already like partially, not completely tight or whatever. Like I was like, okay. freaking short, that right there is above my, it's already almost like right here to me, yeah.
So when you push it in, you have to push with 2 hands to get it in there?
No, I just had it.
Was it pretty full? Like the dumpster?
Yeah, it was about halfway full, a little bit more than halfway full. And I didn't have to use 2 hands, I just put it in there.
Okay. All right, so I know this is hard to do reverse order, but let's go just before that.
Just before that, drove by Misty's house, and I drove by the still.
Well, we know we didn't do that, though, right?
When you try right here, if her light is on, you can see that tree. It's literally that tree is right there in front of her house, right before the driveway. When you drive by, if you glance, you can see that. And you can see if the porch light is on.
But at this point right here, you're already, because this camera right here sits right there. So you're already driven by that one, right?
Yeah, it's right there. As soon as I pulled in, you can see it. It's really cool.
Was there any points at all that you stopped in here to see anybody else that you knew in there?
I don't know anybody else in there. She's the only person I knew besides her husband and her kids. So I didn't. That's why I didn't go through the whole neighborhood or anything. I didn't know anybody else. I just drove this way. That's right there. I'm telling you, you there, you can see that tree, and you can see the lights. So keep going, going around. That's for me. Let's see the West Coast. This away. Now when I left, I went straight home before I got the car. Yeah, I don't know what I was doing. I didn't know my mom was just showing up. Not sure.
You had a line before you got the car, obviously.
Yeah, I believe it.
So you drove with your driving with it?
Yeah, I always had it.
Gotcha.
Like anywhere I went, I could do it. Use it for the car.
And you smoked in the car?
Yeah, it's one thing I thought too. Probably found like a million traces of coke in the car.
So at what point did you realize the smell was so bad that you should stop at the dumpster and throw it away?
It was before I even pulled out the house. It was like the moment that I got in the car and the trash, I had time to sit in the car throughout the day, and I just smelled it, and I was just like, at first, like when I first left to go to 204, I smelled a little song, but it wasn't too bad. Like, I was like,
No, not to make you want to stop it.
yeah, not for me to check it or anything. I said, no, maybe something just stinks in here. I don't know. Maybe it's the car itself. And what was it? And I got here, got back in the car again. I said, I can't stand it. So when we got up here and whatever, and I seen that she was in home, so I was like, whatever. And I went around and I started, so I got to get rid of this company.
So was the bag heavy enough where you had to like drag it out of the
No,
bag?
I had to pull it out with one hand. I pulled it out with one hand and I put it up there and just like that. Just like anybody else, or you take the trash bag and throw it like it is, or you pick it up and push it over the side, you know. That was it.
Did you see any people?
I don't think so. Not
Did
that.
your guys?
Yeah, I don't think I seen anybody. I know when I was coming down going to Fisher, there's some black man walking down the road and Buck called there, but he always is walking up and down the road.
So you didn't see anybody else in and around the dumpster site? Nothing at all right there?
Nobody, there's raccoons. There's plenty of raccoons out there, but that was it.
In that camera, that's going to show us.
That was exactly that. You see that it was, y'all see that it was pull it out easy, put it away easy, there was no struggling with it at all. So it's not all the food and trash, that was all that was in the bag. 100%. Smell it, something, all of it.
There's more in that bag of trash.
There was nothing but old food and trash from that fridge in that bag. Like I didn't even put more than 20 pounds of stored on like that little box of stored. I don't know about how much something was. And when my oldest son was like 40 pounds, I put it on his weight close to 32 pounds or something like that. It weighs a chunky little solid dude. You know, that bag no one could. You can see when I walk to the phone bathroom, you can see I'm not struggling with the I'm not struggling with the water. And it's not like I sat there and was like holding it or something like that. It's nothing like that at all. I just got out. It's like, damn, my body took that trash out. And you didn't.
Well, just, again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. You don't want the world to see.
You just want to get home. And I didn't do nothing for my time. Okay? I did nothing to that baby at all but love him and care for him. Yeah. I got out of him when I got out of back home. He was there. When I got home, he was there. Do I know what happened between the time that I went to sleep and when I got home? I don't.
There's more to the story you're trying to tell. Everyone knows what they do when they're up there and things. Okay, Corley said, that's what we do. And Lord knows what the lead was good at. We don't know that. So there was something that happened when you were absolutely, let's out of your mind, when coaching, we, and Corley said, I mean, that's a hell of a combination. So that's all we got to get to.
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened at all.
I know maybe right there in the moment, you had no idea. You know, you had just had an issue with Danny. Y'all were in an argument. You felt like he was abandoned. You were hurt. You were struggling. You had nobody to reach out to.
No one ever comes see me.
We see that. We see it in the video. I don't have a copy of the video here. But so then I look and watch it. And we know the struggles that you were facing. We understand it as best we can. We try to understand. We can't live through your life. We don't completely understand it. But watching those videos, again, like what I said earlier, I heard for you. And I hope you understand that. But there's just something that has to
Nothing that happened to my knowledge that baby's in the tip.
You don't see the babies. You're by yourself and something happens and you're beside yourself and there's no one ever can help you are alone. And you've got two babies, that's cold and you go.
But Danny was 13 with how he went in about day, watching TV and I was asleep and really drunk and down, but he was there. You know?
So you go with you?
No, he went to with me over the kids. My brother got there and he was in the east and I got home after. But it was nothing.
How many kids are in the house? What names are
Awfully. Every time, me and him never really went anywhere together because of the struggles of taking kids out in public and, going shopping or anything like that. So it was like he would go or I would go. And if we all went, it was normally right after picking up the kids because they're already in the car. But there's nothing that happened that would make him.
that you remember right now?
I will tell you that, yes, I was messed up, and I was messed up, and I was fucked up, and I was sometimes sorry, but I would change the way I put that statement. There was nothing that happened that I can remember. When I went to bed, I saw as I know he was there. When I woke up, he wasn't. So there was nothing at all to my knowledge that I can remember. And I could, my fault, it is my fault because I was so messed up. It's huge. Yeah, so I would say that like if I did something to him, I don't remember doing it to him. If I did, I don't remember hurting him. I don't remember taking the baby or anything like that. I remember seeing him in the bed when I went to sleep. That's what I remember. When I do, I remember that here, like, he's such a pretty baby. Sky's bottle was, she wakes up around 4 or something normally, and then again about 3 or 4. I gave her, I took the bottle out of her mouth, because we had popped up. And Richard, Danny, or something, I don't remember dropping the bottle. Whatever. Zane, I come right back up with full camera blanket. I'm recording serious things and he was asleep. I don't know anything else.
But something happened. That's why I was going through this files. We're there. We know something happened. It wasn't, nobody's saying that you strangled, you killed your baby. I'm not saying that. But we both know something happened that night that we have got to figure out. And that's where we are. And I am pleading with you to help me help you control this story. Because you're put in a bad situation, a very difficult situation. So we talked about this. The addiction to cocaine, the addiction to cocaine. I mean, for crying out loud, you could smoke around cocaine and go to sleep.
Yeah, I know. That's not what I was so long ago.
So just help us go back. Clinton wasn't crying and he did something that you just actually right now got pushed so far back in your mind. You love that boy beyond belief. I could see that in the video that I watched. He was your prize. But you did something when you had no control because you were under the influence.
I told him that I did not do anything to him.
You didn't do anything intentionally.
I don't remember doing anything to him. I always started speeding and I'm putting him back.
We're trying to help you.
I know, and I don't know what he's doing. I really don't. I don't know what happened to him.
I know, we don't need to lie. We
I
don't need
don't
to.
know. I want to know. I want to know so bad. Touching your baby. It is so hard. He was there when I was asleep. If I was so fucked up that I did something, it's so bad. I'll take my responsibility, but I don't know what it was. If I did, and I don't know what happened, and I don't know where he is. I know you're gonna love him, but it's all she's too, and you'll ask me anything that, maybe this will take them over, and I don't know at all. And I don't
You
know.
said that, right? But sometimes you don't remember when you're changed until it's already happened.
Until it's already happened, yeah.
And then you wake up and you're back to yourself. And your baby's gone.
It's like, I don't know. That wasn't a lot of how much was a lot of pain. I don't know if I did something to him. But if I did, I'll take my responsibility. Whatever you'll find, I'll take my responsibility. But I'm hoping to God that you'll come home with him alive and well in my arms. That's what I want.
I just have some follow-up questions, Robert. Getting pretty close to being done with this direct examination. Just to recap a few things from that interview, I don't know how well people could hear it, so I'm just going to be on the safe side here. Did she ultimately tell you that the Percocet she had obtained that night was from Craig?
She did. That's correct. Yes, sir.
And this was something that she had identified as red in earlier interviews?
That's correct.
But in this interview, she confirmed that Craig and Red are the same person.
Yes, sir.
And in this interview, she admitted that she had met him at Arkwright Road, not Flacco's Tacos.
That's correct.
What did she ultimately say eventually about whether she had met Misty that night?
Ultimately, as a result of the interview, she provided that she hadn't indeed met Missy that night.
And that was only after first telling you in here that I did meet Missy 100%.
On multiple occasions, yes.
What did she ultimately say about whether she had gotten Oragel that night and where she had gotten it?
She couldn't get off the fact that she did get Oragel. So after we came to the determination that she didn't get Oragel from Mitzi, she continued to state that she had the Oragel, found it in her car when she got back to the house.
Is it the case that she offered this information about cocaine use eventually to explain her shifting stories?
That's correct.
And what does she say to you about the frequency of her cocaine use around this time frame? Not just that night, but just the frequency of her cocaine use generally?
Yes, sir. So that she was a daily cocaine user and she was using cocaine, Percocet, marijuana on October the 4th, as well as the early morning hours of October the 5th.
And specifically, did she tell you that she had been using cocaine throughout the night that night?
She did, yes, sir.
Did she tell you that after she had gotten home from the dumpster, she had hit another line or two?
She did.
And did she tell you that she was all types of fucked up that night?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
At one point, did she say that I was so messed up on drugs?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And did she tell you that if I was so fucked up that I did something, I'd take responsibility?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
All right. Now, were you involved in the coordination and oversight of the landfill search?
I was. Yes, sir. I was.
Now, can you tell us generally, in relation to the search area pointed out by the landfill manager and then later outlined by Team Adam, where were Quentin's remains ultimately found in relation to that box or so?
They were found in the lower left portion of the box that Team Adam had identified for the search team as the area to search.
Now, did you all keep an open mind during this investigation and take seriously the idea of Paul and Danny as suspects?
We did.
Why did the investigation ultimately focus in on the defendant?
Ultimately, there were 3 individuals in that house, 3 adults in that house. And of those 3 adults, there was only one that continued to lie to us throughout the course of the investigation.
No further questions, Your Honor.
I'm going to take this opportunity to break for, and Mr. Hilliard, you can begin your cross-examination when we come back.
Thank you, Judge.
Yes, the time now is 1:20. Let's be back at 2:20 since we have lunch here today. That should be easier to do. So 2:20, we're going to take an hour-long break. Please don't discuss the case. Please don't watch, consume, read any social media or TV stories about the case. All right. Thank you. See you in an hour.
Jury is exiting.
Thank you, Williams. Okay, we're in recess, 2:20. Thank you.
All right, as you heard, the court is in recess until 2:20, and with our 30-minute delay, you can expect this live stream to continue around 2:50 p.m. You can also check our website for the latest information of this case, but we'll be back at 2:50.